How's it going, guys? I'm Mike Dwyer from the Bunker Recordings and BetterMixes.com, and today I want to talk to you about gear. And more specifically, when it comes to recording, which gear makes the biggest difference? So let's get right into it with number 4, the least important thing we're going to talk about today, converters. Here's the thing. Converter technology has come a long way in the last 10 or 15 years. And nowadays, even cheap converters are really pretty solid. Now, I'm not saying that every converter sounds exactly the same and that high-end converters don't make any difference at all. I'm just saying the difference is small. If you're not happy with the way your recordings are sounding and you're thinking about buying new converters to fix it, that's not likely to fix the problem. On the other hand, if you have everything else we're going to talk about today down solid and you've got the extra money and you want to go that last little extra bit, then yeah, go for it. But for anybody else, your converters are probably not your problem. All right, next up, number 3, preamps. Audio engineers seem to love preamps, but they really don't make as much of a difference as you might think. It makes more of a difference than the converters, but it's still not huge. If you've got an interface from Audient or Focusrite or an Apollo or something like that, the preamps in there are fairly neutral and clean. Now, while a lot of more expensive preamps like Neves or APIs impart a nice color onto your sound that a lot of people like, we're just talking about a little bit of flavor that they're adding. There's absolutely no reason you can't make amazing sounding recordings using just the preamps in your interface. Now, moving on to number 2, we have microphones. Now, this is where it starts to make a big difference. The right versus wrong microphone choice for a source really can make or break your recordings. Now, that's not to say that you necessarily need to spend a fortune on mics, though. Obviously, it depends on what you're recording, but there are plenty of affordable options that still sound great. For instance, if you record electric guitars, the SM57 is a classic on guitars for a reason. Yes, there are other nice options like Royers or M160s, but if you're on a tight budget, you can absolutely get a great guitar sound with a 57. And even for vocals, for the styles I mostly record, the Shure SM7B is one of my favorite vocal mics. I've had it beat out extremely expensive vintage tube mics plenty of times. But obviously that all depends on the voice and the style of music. And that's a key part, finding the right mic for the sound you're going for. Just because a mic is expensive or because it's a classic doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be the sound you're looking for. That's actually why I've made a lot of mic shootout videos on this channel, to help steer you in the right direction on which mics sound right to you. Now on to number 1, the most important piece of gear when it comes to recording. Your source. Now obviously that can be a ton of different things depending on what you're recording, but this could be guitars, basses, amps, drums, the room you're recording in. All these things are going to have a way bigger impact on the final sound of your recordings than any of the other gear in the chain. I see so many engineers and studios slip up on this. They'll mic a drum kit up with all the best mics going into amazing preamps and converters, but the drum set itself will have old worn out heads, it'll be completely out of tune, and it'll have cheap cymbals on it. I don't care if you have racks full of Neve preamps, that's not going to help if the source itself sounds like crap. Same thing for guitar. You might be running a Royer into an API preamp, but if that Royer is sitting in front of a cheap crappy amp with a poorly set up guitar plugged into it, it's never going to sound good. And the other aspect of this is when I have bands come into my studio and they grab my Tele or my SG or whatever, and it feels great in their hands, and they plug it into my Mesa or Marshall or Orange, and they hear that incredible guitar tone, it inspires them to play better. And having that better performance from the musician is way more important than any preamp or any converter. So again, if you're looking to improve your recordings and you're thinking about getting a new preamp or new converters, maybe you should first take a look at what you're actually recording and make sure that sounds great, and then make sure you've got the proper mics to capture it. Now obviously I'm only talking about gear here. What you actually do with the gear is the most important thing. Things like mic placement and how you process your tracks in the mix. And I mean, that's why I created this YouTube channel in the first place, was to share helpful tips and techniques to help you improve your skills. So if you like this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and head on over to BetterMixes.com to grab a free copy of my Ultimate EQ cheat sheet.